how hardware and software solutions are designed to meet a specific purpose. And after that, what we are going to discuss, we will understand what are the risks to the data and how we can mitigate that. So, mitigation of the risk, we will compare the range of attack techniques and we will explain the nature of security incidents with examples. So, in the previous lecture, we have discussed what is network, what is TCP IP suite, what is OSI model. We discussed ports and their purpose. So, in this lecture, we will discuss hardware and software specification. So the first thing is the virtualization and network security technology. So what is virtualization? It is a process of creating the virtual version of the physical resources. For example, you have your physical storage. Okay, just like this is your hard drive. Okay, so this is your hard drive and your uh, RAM is this, and this is your system on which Windows is currently installed. Okay, so your hard is, let's suppose, 512 GBs, and your RAM is around, let's say, 16 GBs. So this is your hard and this is your RAM. Now you want to increase the space, but not physically, but virtually. As like, let's suppose I want to extend it to 20 GBs. So I want 4 GB extra here. And I want, let's suppose, 50 GB more extra here. So what the virtualization will do, it will allows you to create this extra space virtually. So with the process of virtualization, you can create or have or allocate storage virtually. But not, it is not physically here, but virtually you can even store data here. So that is the process of virtualization. Now let's suppose you are working on Windows. I want to learn more about Unix. I want to learn about Linux. So I want to learn even Mac. So these are the three different operating systems. So these are the three operating systems. But currently, which operating system is installed? That is Windows. Now I also want to learn these three. Now we know that on a single system we can have installed on a single operating system, but I have to learn these three for my own purpose. So what can I do? So we have a software known as virtual machine, yeah, or virtual box. Okay, so this virtual box provides you the facility that you can learn these three new environments currently on your this environment. How is it possible? With the process of this virtualization, it will allows you to virtually create three operating system by allocating them virtual RAM and virtual hard drive. So it will virtually, these three virtually take space on virtual RAM and your virtual hard drive. And even you can with your this VM box, it will allows you to use these three along with this. So this is what your operating system, this is what the virtualization will do. It will allows you to create a virtual space that is not physically allocated, but virtually you can even store that, and you can even remove that whenever you want. So this is the process of virtualization. This VM box will virtually create three or even more than three operating system like Linux or we have Mac. So if you want to learn this, so but currently you have this. So this VM box is a software that will allocate virtual spaces to these two. And after using that, you can delete your VM machine for any Linux or whether it's Mac. So this is the process of VM. After going through a certain process, a virtual memory is created and you can use it for your own purpose. Even you can install different operating systems on your virtual machine. So that is the virtualization and the working and the benefit of using the virtualization. Okay, so let's read the definition. So virtualization is the process of creating virtual visions of servers. You can create of desktop. I told you about storage. Even you can create the virtual service for virtual networks also. So, for example, if you have 10 servers, means you are running a company and you don't need to create 10 servers physically. You can create 3 servers, even one can also work, and you can virtually have 10 host virtual machines. So we have multiple virtual machine softwares. For servers, we have other types of software. For creating storage, we have other types of software. For using different operating systems, we have other types of software. That is the virtual box that I told you for operating systems. And for servers, you can use hypervisor like VMware, okay, or Microsoft Hyper-V. So these are the two software that are used to create server virtualization. Even network storage technologies are used, means you allow centralized storage to accessible over the network, just like your virtual storage, like the cloud storage. That is not directly like you don't need to purchase a physical space, or it didn't means the things that you stored there on cloud didn't take physically the space of your system or your phone. So that is some sort of virtual storage. So, for example, you use network attached storage, like to share your files to employees over your LAN. You use storage area network. So, storage area network is another kind of example. Like you use a centralized virtual storage hub where your data is going to store. So, you may have a centralized virtual storage hub that will store your data there. And so here your virtual storage hub, the data will be stored and it will provide the storage data to different LANs like here or elsewhere. Monitoring and scanning. Now, for monitoring and scanning, you want to check the performance of the network. You want to check the logs. You want to check the events. You want to patch the management. You want to check the patch management and or vulnerability scan. So how you can do? Let's suppose you want to monitor means you have to check keep the track of what is your CPU usage, your memory usage, what is your network bandwidth. So for these all purpose, you can use different softwares. Different softwares are there that are used to monitor the server, CPU load, your RAM storage. So these are different softwares. So that can be used for that purpose, even for log and event management. So for what is meaning of that? For example, you want to check each and every second, each and every time, each and every minute, what was your system activity, what kind of events take place at that. To collect and analyze system data, according to that, we use different log and event management softwares. Like we have Splunk, we have SIEM tool that can alert you when multiple failed. For example, you are a network administrator, so someone do multiple attempts to log into account. This is an account. So some sort of user tries to access this account, let's suppose 30 times, even 50 times. And your log is giving you alerts. As an admin, you are getting alerts like about the fail attempts. It will alert you about there are 30 attempts, even 100 attempts. So You might find suspicious why a user is doing these much attempts to access the account. What is the real matter? So you will notify and detect on a server whether this user is an unauthorized user, like hacker. So if that, you will secure your system and take the quality measures that you should take. Okay. So for log and event management, these softwares are used. Now, secondly, for patch management, maybe you find some vulnerabilities. Vulnerability means some loopholes that are left in the software. Means the path, the leftover path or ways where the hacker can access your system. So the hacker can access your system with these holes. So this is your software. Let's suppose this is your system and it might contain some vulnerabilities, means some loopholes that are left out there. So this is your entire system. So let's suppose it's a hospital management system, and the developer, due to some reason or uh, due to some reason, it might left some patches there like this, some loopholes left, and you are not aware of them. But the hacker knows these ways to access your system. So this is the hacker who knows how I am going to access this system through this loop. So what the patch management will do, it will notify you, it will update the software and update the security patches. Means it will fill these patches like this by updating your security so that the hackers through these holes, through these vulnerabilities, wouldn't access your system. So in this way, it will patch all the vulnerabilities here. And so this is how these softwares will allow you to patch your security vulnerabilities, and so that there should not be any sort of hole left for the user. So we have different softwares, like we have Windows Server Update services. So this is a software that will allows you to update across all the computers in a domain. So this will automatically update all the computers that are there in a specific domain. So in this way, it will automatically detect any vulnerability and patch them so that there must not be any chance of unauthorized access for that system. Is vulnerability scan. Means your system checks for the known vulnerabilities. Just like you run a quick security scan on Windows to check whether there is any virus in your system or not hidden into different files. So what it will do, it will scan all the files of the system in the quick scan and update you or give you a report for the scan viruses or not. If there is a scan virus, it will notify you that this virus is located in this file at this location, or if not, it will notify you that there is no hidden virus or threat. Similarly, these vulnerability scans will check the system for the non vulnerabilities. You can run this OpenVAS or other softwares to find the outdated software or the weak password. So why the outdated softwares and weak passwords? Because these outdated softwares and weak password contains the mostly vulnerabilities. The outdated software that is not updated from a longer period of time, there are much possibilities that it might contain different loopholes where your system can be get accessed by the unauthorized person. So vulnerability scanning softwares will provide you the facility to scan for such kind of softwares or weak passwords. Then network troubleshooting process means you have to identify the cause, how you have to implement the solution. Means in short, you have to, if you want to troubleshoot the network, then there is a complete process of firstly, we have the problem identification. Means you will identify first what is the real problem, why the user needs to troubleshoot the network. Maybe, for example, user report that they can't access a shared drive. That is a problem. You identify the real problem that the user is facing is that they can't access the shared drive. That is their problem. Then you establish a cause. Why that happened? What are the major causes that such kind of problem can occur? For example, you find that the file server network interface is down. So that might be a possible reason that the user can't access a shared file. So you will establish different causes for that. Thirdly, what you are going to do, you are going to create a plan of action, like how you are going to solve this problem. So for solving a given problem, the very first thing that you have to do is to create a plan of action for that. For example, what you are going to do, you plan to restart the NSA, means the network interface card, or you told the user that you have to replace the cable, or you might schedule a maintenance window if it is needed. So you list out all the possibilities in your plan that you are going to take or you are going to act upon in order to solve that problem. In the fourth place, you will implement the solution. Means what you are going to do, you will reboot the server or you reconfigure your NIC. Okay, so these are the two things that you are going to do in order to access that or in order to do that. Then what you are going to do, you will fully verify the system functionality. After implementing the given solution, what you are going to do, you will verify whether the changes that I have made solve the problem or not, whether the user can access the drive again or not. So you have to confirm whether the user can access the drive or not. If yes, then your solution or the plan that you have provided is good, and otherwise you will create a new plan, you will implement that and verify whether it's working well or not. Then you document the finding. Now what you are going to do, whatever the problem was occur, how you provide the solution, you will document it. Means the key finding that you discover in this process, means you will record that what the issue was, how it was fixed in your IT documentation system or not, so that in future if you face a similar problem, so then in that case you are going to use that. Then virtualization and cloud services. I told you what is virtualization, that's why I have right here that virtualization is covered earlier. Nowadays cloud services are more demanding. What are they? Cloud services means the services that are delivered over the internet. We have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service, we have software as a service. Infrastructure as a service means that virtual servers are provided. Means if you want to purchase virtual servers, means you don't want to buy the virtual servers for your application, so you want to purchase different sort of virtual servers that provide you different storage levels and different functionality. So these three services like Amazon Web Service. So AWS is providing the facility of these virtual servers. So if you want to purchase some sort of virtual service, then Amazon Web Service EC2 is providing these services. Then the platform as a services, it is mostly for developers like Google App Engine. Provides you a platform to create your applications. Or you can say that we have a Netlify that allows you to create or deploy your websites. So Netlify and multiple services are there for that purpose. Then after that we have software as a service, means the application that are accessed through web. You know that if some of you have used Google Workspace, so through internet you can use the Google Workspace. We have Office 365, means nowadays you if you don't have physically installed Office in your system, then you can use them online. Just by logging in your account, you can use the Office 360 5 services. So nowadays, different cloud services are provided. Then pay as you go is more common nowadays. Like pay for what you use and use according to that. The best example is that Google Drive that provides you this storage as a service through internet. So if you exceed from 15 GB or your requirement exceed from 15 GB, so you will just pay. Let's suppose you want to purchase 5 GB more. So then you will just pay for that 5 GB space, or according to your need, you pay for that and use that service according to a subscription of monthly basis or a yearly basis. It depends upon the need, your need of that storage. So that is also a software as a service that is accessed through web. So these are the three virtualization. These are the three cloud services. And virtualization we have discussed earlier. What is that? So till now, what we have discussed what is virtualization, what is the process of network troubleshooting, and what are different cloud services that are used in the network. So these are three uh, cloud services that we discuss. We discuss infrastructure as a service, means the database that it will provide. You can, MongoDB is the best example. It will provide you servers. So how this works? So firstly, they have their own servers. They have their runtime. The database is given and then the application that they are providing is here. Then in the platform as a service, if they are providing you a platform to work just like Google Engine, so there will be server at the backend where actually the data is stored. There are runtime is there. After that, there will be a database, and then the actual application, the service that they are providing will be there. Then software as a service, they don't have the service at the backend. They just have a database where your data is going to be stored and an application that is presented to you as a service. We are going to discuss is the scanning, monitoring, and patching process. How the scanning is done, how the monitoring is done, and how the patching is done. No doubt, previously we have discussed what is scanning, monitoring, and patching. So these are interrelated with each other. So what the scanning will do? It will detect the issue or vulnerabilities. If there is an, like it will use QLAs to detect different endpoints to check if there is any vulnerability left or not. Then for monitoring, it will continuously check the systems. Like it can use Datadog, SolarWinds for live monitoring to check on daily basis that if there is some sort of error or problem there or not. Then the third thing that it is going to do is the patching. It will fix the vulnerability or bugs. As I told you, like it will apply critical storage patches, like for Microsoft after a 0-day vulnerability, whether if it is discovered. So it will apply a security patch on that so that it shouldn't face any sort of problem. So this is how the security, the scanning, the monitoring, and the patching works. Then after that, we have different softwares that are used for log reviews, for patch rollback, for what is SMP, what is SIEM. So Simple Network Management Protocol. So SMP stands for Simple Network Management Protocol. Why it is used? It is used for managing and monitoring your network devices. So all the network devices like its routers or switches or bridges, it is used to manage them. Like it will check your printer status, it will check for your router performance. Like it do that with different tools like SolarWinds with PRTG. So these are the different tools that will be used to check the status of your different network devices. Whether it's a router, whether it's a switch, whether it's a bridge, so it will check the performance of each and every tool by using the SolarWinds or other tools. Then we have security information and event management. So what is the purpose of this? Is to give you the security information, to give you the information about your events, like tools that aggregates and analyze log. We have Splunk, we have IMB Radar. So these are the softwares that can detect anomalies, like if there is any brute force attack. What is the meant by brute force attack? That at the same time, like let's suppose at the same time simultaneously there are multiple login attempts. So multiple things login attempts at the same time means multiple users trying to access the system that cause the server to fail or goes down. So to detect such kind of attacks, this event management security information will use different softwares like IBM QRadar or Splunk. Then, for example, you want to review the logs, the activities, or events of your system that have been done over the time. Then, for that, you need to review the log of the system. For example, you may detect manually or automatically some sort of suspicious significant activity, like you will look at firewall logs to detect whether there is any unusual traffic from an unknown IP or not. If yes, why there is some sort of unusual traffic, so you can notify or take action at that time. Then after that, what we have patch rollback. So you can revert a patch. So you have patched the vulnerabilities, but the new patch create more problems for you. It might cause different problems to you. So what you can do? For example, if a window updates cause application crashes. So you have updated your window, but this new update have crashed your multiple applications. So what the IT will do, IT will roll back it by using system restore. You might restore the system to cancel out that update, to roll back that update, or you might uninstall that updated feature to find out what is the new feature that is updated, which cause multiple applications to be crashed. So what you are going to do, you will uninstall that or you even restore your system. So this is the best way to roll back the patch. Computer threats. Very common thing that you must know about. So these are the risks that can be compromised your data accuracy, your availability, your confidentiality of the computer system. So we have multiple, like we have virus, we have worms, we have Trojan horse, we have ransomware. So let me tell you one by one. So first is the virus, the malicious code that spreads between files. So this is the most common virus that if you type all of these words like this, what will happen? It will damage your system by overwriting files. Even if you text someone this, then what will happen? Their phone might switch off. It can cause disturbance in someone's machine. So this virus was very commonly back then. So that causes 2000 subplots through just emails, and billions of damages were made by just overwriting the file. So worms. So worms are the self-replicating malwares. So that spread through the network. Like we have the WannaCry ransomware that affects the 200,000 computers globally. So that actually happens there. So this is also a software that what it will do, it will replicate itself, means it will duplicate itself again and again. So in 2017, that was most commonly affected virus that affects over 200,000 computers. Then we have another software that is another one that is Trojan horse. So this is a legitimate software, but what it will do, it will didn't harm your computer, but it will secretly install a fake game that you are not aware of. But it's a spyware when downloaded. It will secretly steal your information, what you do day to do, your passwords, your information, and then the third party application can use that information uh, for a wrong purpose. Then after that we have ransomwares, means the encrypted data and demand for payment. What it will do, it will what it will do, for example, if some sort of ransomware is installed in your system, it will lock your system, it will encrypt all the data and lock the system and provide you a statement that unless you provide us such amount of money, we are not going to unlock your system will be locked out for that. Like for example, a hospital is locked out of patient records, so it might lock out your system and then force you to pay into cryptocurrency. So this is what the ransomware will do. So these are the different most commonly computed threats that can be occur in different places at different times. Digital crime, that is known as the cyber crime. So in networks, you must aware of different digital crimes. So what is a digital crime or a cyber crime? That is an illegal activity that uses computers or internet. It can be phishing, it can be identity theft, it can be data breach. So what is phishing? For example, an email pretend to be a email from bank and asks for the user to verify login details. For example, it will provide you a link and says you that you have to click on this link. We just need to verify your bank details. And when you click on that link, what happened? They will hack your system. They will access your phone records and cause multiple damage. So that is a phishing attack. That is that the user trick into some revealing sensitive information like email pretending to be from a bank asking the users to verify the login, something like that. And you click on that unverified link that causes damage to your system or mobile phone. Even your information is leaked and they use it for a wrong purpose. Then after that, what we have identity theft. Means stealing someone's personal information for fraud. Maybe someone used the SSN to apply for loan. So this is the identity theft, that your identity is being stealed by someone else in order to uh, do some sort of for applying loan and for any other their wrong purpose. They use your identity. Then after that, what we have the data breach, means that hacker can gain access to your confidential data. So we have the Equifax breach that in 2017 that exposed the data of over 140 millions of people. So hackers can gain access the confidential data and do whatever they want to do. So that is the data breach. Now after that, what we have in digital crimes, we have discussed what is for there are some examples of phishing, identity theft, and data breach example. We discussed how an email pretends to be from a bank but they ask for it to verify the login details. We discussed data breach, means the hacker can gain access to your confidential data. And that next we have the privacy risk. So we have multiple risks that are associated with our privacy, that are related to our unauthorized access or misuse of personal information, like tracking cookies. We know that multiple butter cookies are the information that is embedded in your browser, uh, and different sites use it for let's suppose to gain access. You want you to they want to give you the frequent access. For that purpose they embed the information at your and in your browsers. So it is might used by website to monitor the user behavior, like the ads follow you after visiting a product page due to cookie based profiling. Due to that, multiple ad follows you, because why? Because you view that product page. Then data mining means collecting or refining a large amount of data without a clear permission from the user. So, for example, we have the Facebook Cambridge Analytica, means now that is a major scandal. But the user data was used for the political profile. So even the larger companies like Facebook and Instagram and others can use your data for another purpose without your legal permission. Then what we have? We have the security risk, means the risk that affects the protection of your digital system and data. For example, it can be a weak password that can be easily cracked or guessed. Like for example, you use 1 2 3 4 5 6 as a password. So multiple hackers or brute force attacks, so even the hacker can easily just by random guessing can check your password, that can access your password, that is very easy, that is mostly commonly used. So I can easily gain that information. So you should avoid the weak password because there is a security risk associated with that. Then we have the insider threats, means employees misuse the access. So, for example, there are company employees who knows the confidential information of the company. So they might leak that confidential company's document for a wrong purpose. So that can be an insider threat. Then we have the unpatched software, means that it leaves the system vulnerable. For example, the hacker exploits a flaw in an outdated web browser just to gain control of a PC. So these are the different risks that are associated. So we have the unpatched softwares, we have the weak passwords, we have the insider threats. So multiple things are there. Then after that, what we have now, there is the impact of everything, means means for marketing. It can be bank. If you're doing electronic marketing, user data can be tracked and sold without the permission. Like for example, you enter your email to get a discount, and then you receive dozens of spam emails because of that email. Then what is the risk? There can be fake advertisements or scam. Like if you enter an email just to get a discount, the phishing so that phishing ads on the social media can lead to a fake store that can either steal your credit card information. So these scams can also happen. Now we have electronic health. We have multiple nowadays online apps available that provides you the facility of doctors by connecting you with an online doctor. So what will happen? Medical data can be breaching. So even a cyber attack on the hospitals can expose the patient medical history. Then after that, we have attack service. Like the attack service is the total number of points or paths where the unauthorized user can try to enter. So there are multiple doors or windows that are open. Just like you can think it like number of doors and windows your house has, and it can be break. Uh, a thief can break into that house. So similarly, there can be different attack points, like there can be different attack points or paths where the user can enter or extract data from the system. Now, what is the key idea? If the larger the attack service, means you provide the larger attack service multiple points, the greater the risk there is. Because there are more opportunities for the attacker to attack and get the access of your data. Like for example, for a web application, you have multiple login page, you have contact forms, you have file upload features, you have API endpoints. So all of these are the parts of your web app. These are the attack surface for them. They can be entered from any of these points. Like for example, if it's a corporate network, then it can be what will be the attack window or door. It can be employee's laptop. It can be a public facing server. Wi-Fi access point can also be an option for the attacker. A USB port, VPN gateways, because each one is potential entry point for the attacker. Okay. And the last thing that we are going to discuss is the attack vector. Now, what is attack vector? It is basically a method or a route that attack can be used to exploit a vulnerability. Now, for example, phishing emails means the what is the attack vector? Attack vector here is the email with malicious link or attachment. What it will do? Human errors and trust. It will gain that trust and cause human errors. Now, what is SQL injection? There, it is another sort of that. It will enter the malicious SQL code in your web form automatically. And why it happened? Because the code was poorly conducted. The input validation was not good. So brute force means trying thousands of passwords until one works. So if you have a weak or common password, you can easily be a victim of this brute force. Then we have drive-by download, means you visit the malicious website that auto-download software. And it might cost you the outdated plugins. So this is the attack vector, means you provide a service or a method or a route to that. We discuss attack service, means multiple pages, windows or door where the attack can be happen. We discuss cyber crime. We discuss computer threats.